Timmerman, my wife Lorraine, and I are probably the most senior members of the organization that Lita Benson founded in 1979. We're still active in OLT productions and administration. Over the past 44 years, I've been the president for 10 of those years. During my tenure, I have directed 14 musicals and played leading and supporting roles in multiple plays and musicals. Until recently, my wife and I have also been involved in set design and building of almost every production. Between us, we have accumulated well over 50 Bensons. Today, we are celebrating the Centennial of the Lyric Theater. Ouachita Little Theater acquired the Lyric in 1985. But the old lady had a lot of history before the OLT expanded its influence on the community. The first Lyric opened in Mena on Monday, September 12, 1909, and after the fire, the building where OLT presently resides opened on Monday, October 1st, 1923. It started as a silent movie house in 1923, but added sound in around 1930 with the showing of Al Jolson's Say It With Songs, as Lum and Abner premiered their show Dreaming Out Loud and appeared on the Lyric stage 3 times. 3,500 people attended that weekend.
Just one more game.
No, I'm through, I tell you.
Just one more, Lum.
Abner, I've told you 1,000 or 100 times I'm tired of playing. It ain't nothing new, Jesse. I've said it before, but me and Abner has lived here in Pine Ridge about as long as anybody. And we'd like to see the town get ahead.
And what is it you want me to do this time?
Well, Doc Walt collapsed in his office last night.
The Lyric remained a movie theater until after 1982. Once we got the Lyric in 1985, work needed to be done to make it usable again. I remember in the days we turned off the noisy air conditioners that were stuck in the wall during the show because they were just too noisy. I had to get up on the stage before the show and ask people to flush the toilets less often since it took too much time for the tanks to refill. Intermissions were definitely longer then than now. We finished the run of Sound of Music. A tornado took the back off the theater. I can still remember seeing the beautiful backdrop Lorraine had painted, out in the open, wet and torn. I was president at the time, so I called for a community meeting to see what we should do. The Lyric was badly damaged. Do we tear it down and build new, restore as much as we could, and save the building, or throw up our hands and say that this is the end of OLT? The community voted to repair the building, and many community members helped with labor, funding. The community saw us as an integral part of the community, and not just another damaged business. I was also able to negotiate an insurance settlement and low-interest small business administration loan to finance the building repairs. With the help of Bob Dyer and in cooperation with the Mena building inspector, we designed a way to stabilize the walls and add additional support for the roof. As it turned out, I ended up being the unofficial volunteer contractor to rebuild the Lyric Theater. The electrical and plumbing were brought up to code right along with the building and structural work. Bob Dyer built the stage and the proscenium, as well as the coverings for the walls. Johnny Herring added the catwalk, and later the backstage mezzanine and the spiral staircases using salvaged material from the college's tornado damage. Bob Dyer also donated an old used lighting system that he had salvaged from a Dallas school modernization project. Since I had an Arkansas Master's Electrician's license, I installed and wired the lighting system and got it working. While years of storage and an outdated system left a lot to be desired, it worked for us for years. By 1995, we had a serviceable building with fewer seats, but opened again our own stage with the play Charlie's Aunts. Since that day, 29 years have passed, During that time, by making the community feel that it was a part of the theater, they continued to support by attending shows and providing donations necessary to operate. Since that day, 29 years have passed. During that time, by making the community feel that this was their theater, they continued to support by attending shows and providing the donations necessary to operate. Some of the advances that were made possible through community support were the remodeling of our offices and a new bathroom, and remodeling the upstairs for storage, a new concession stand, an actual green room with bathrooms, a new digital lighting system, and a new sound system. Thank you, Don Buttermilk. I have also worked to make our different theater communities cooperate through joint productions. We had a number of firsts for the community right here on the OLT stage. The first use of video projection in shows by my birdie, the start of a newsletter, a building of a Facebook page, and a website. We initiated computerized membership records and an open office regular to regularly serve the community were all made possible through community support. Thank you. As community members, this is your theater, and only through your support can we keep going. As you look back on those years, I wonder how I was able to teach college full-time, run the college radio and TV program, work as OLT president, direct shows in which I sometimes played the lead. Print programs, tickets, and as well as make sure that I communicated with our members. In addition, I was going to school working on my doctorate. The answer is, besides the help I got from Beth McMillan, I love providing opportunities to folks. Some of the folks with whom I have worked, like Judy and Larry Kropp, Julie and Jeff Almer, have passed those opportunities on to even more. Some of our new board members are recipients of the help given by those coming before them. In fact, our current president, Alex Knight, was first introduced to the OLT stage in one of the musicals I directed. It is almost like a genealogy of the theater family, a genealogy that starts with Lita Benson and progresses through generations to our newest board members, Ezekiel McPherson and Stephanie Joy Moore. I love seeing this, and I love theater. Join us. You too will love it.
Hi, my name's Judy Kropp. I'm Artistic Director at the OLT. In 1992, my family moved to Mena, Arkansas. One of the first people we met was Rudy Timmerman. He was on Larry's interview team, and he immediately took to us, and we took to him. He said he wanted us to be a part of the OLT, and we decided it would be a good thing for our family to do together. And so that's the whole purpose of OLT for our family, was to do things together. So the first show was The Best Christmas Pageant Ever, which I co-directed in December of '92. And we had 3 stagehands, Larry, Larry, and Larry. And in the middle of one of the shows, they locked themselves out of the theater and couldn't even change the sets. It was crazy. And then our next show was Sound of Music in the spring of 1993. Now, my youngest daughter, Sarah, was in the Best Christmas Pageant as Gladys, the youngest herdsman, and she was quite an attitude. And then in Sound of Music, she was the youngest of the Von Trapp children, where she was sweet and kind and wonderful. We found out after those 2 shows that our 3rd grader lived her life on stage and at home the same way. As many of you know, I am the musical director for the OLT most of the time. And one of the shows that I have a lot of memories about was King and I. Unfortunately, the tornado had hit our community theater, and so we were performing at the old middle school. And we must have had about 20 children that were in this show to be part of the King's family. They were a hoot to work with. We had mamas. We had little babies carried in their arms up to about 6th graders, I believe. Now, I was directing an orchestra of about 25, and most of those kids were from the high school. Some of those kids are still around, like Brandy Benner and Charles Morgan for a couple. So we were playing a song called March of the Siamese Children, which was fairly repetitive. And we must have had to play that song about 10 times because each child had to come up and bow to the king and give a gift to the king or Anna. It took forever. And I would just kept saying, do it again, do it again, do it again. What a nightmare. Another favorite memory from King and I was Larry Johnson as the king and Sandra Sessler as the Miss Anna. And they had to do a dance. And sometimes, if some of you remember, Larry is a pretty big guy and Sandra was a pretty short little woman. He would just pick her up and just swing her around and dance. And it was just lovely to see them together. And they seemed to enjoy it so much. One time, though, we had a strict rule of no liquids on stage or even backstage. But somebody had done it, and Sandra got on stage to do this dance, and she slipped and fell. She was humiliated. Most of us didn't even hardly see it, but it did remind us why there are some safety rules for the theater. In King and I, my oldest daughter played Anna's son. She played it against Jeff and Julie Ulmer's son, Travis. And at one point, they get in kind of a little scuffle. And Travis almost knocked Jessica off the stage into the orchestra pit. Whoa! One of the times I was most thankful for was the first time we did Little Shop of Horrors. We had a new middle school band director named Tina Cornwell, and they asked her to be the musical director. It was great. It gave me a chance to have a break, and she wanted to try her talents out at that. So she did the Little Shop of Horror. One of the performances, I think it was the lead, got very sick backstage, and Tina had to go on stage and perform her part. I always said I was so thankful that Tina had been there. I would not have done that. The show would have had to have been canceled. So thankful for people that step in and do the work when they don't get much recognition.
I just love Pharaoh. Don't you? You never know what's going to happen here. Why, I was just walking over here admiring the new cracks in the sidewalks when I wound up in the middle of an Indian attack. Boy, howdy, talk about exciting.
My husband, Larry, had never been in any theater until we came to Mina, but he sure did love it, and he sure loved the people that he got to know. You all knew when he was in a show because he would see you in Walmart or in the halls of RMCC, and he would start spouting lines or singing songs. He was so much fun. One of the shows he did without the rest of the family was The Odd Couple, where he played Murray, the cop. He must have had about 100 lines he had to memorize. And by the time we got to those shows, I was a nervous wreck. It's probably the only time that I was really nervous about a show. And that was because I knew every one of his lines and wondered if he'd get them. And he did. He did a marvelous job as Murray.
Hi, I'm Julie Ulmer. I'm currently secretary for Ouachita Little Theater. We are celebrating our 100th anniversary of the Lyric Theater, which is home to the OLT. And I just want to share a few memories with you. I started in Ouachita Little Theater in 1989 when I was in my first play, Hobson's Choice, along with my husband. Our good friend Ann Hatley invited us to try out. We had never been in any kind of play before, and we didn't know what we were doing, but it was so much fun. We got parts and we had a blast and kind of got the bug. So when it was time for the musical to roll around in the spring, Rudy Timmerman was directing Fiddler on the Roof, which we both love that show so much. So we just auditioned to see what would happen, and we all got roles. Jeff was Laser Wolf, and I was a 37-year-old playing a 19-year-old. I was Zeidel, Tevye's eldest daughter, and it was just a blast. We had so much fun. About halfway through rehearsals, we still didn't have any choreography to speak of because our choreographer just kind of didn't show up. So I told Rudy, I said, listen, I am in no way, shape, or form a real choreographer, but I used to make up routines in high school for my pom squad, and I made up routines for my aerobic class I taught. I said, it's better than nothing, and he agreed. And that's kind of what it was, better than nothing. But it was my first time to do it, and I loved it. And so when I got opportunities down the road, I did continue that. But we did have so much fun in Fiddler, and then it rolled around again in 2008. I believe the first time was like 91, I think 1991. But in 2008, he did it again. And this time I got to really choreograph it like I wanted to. And that was sort of my main job, was to do that. And it was fun, and it turned out well. But we had trouble filling a small role. It's that of Fru Sarah. She's a ghost that's the former wife of Laser Wolf, and she comes to visit Tevye and haunts him in his nightmare. And it's a very funny scene, but it's also a little scary. And nobody recognized me. I mean, they really did a good job on my makeup and my hair, and I was pretty scary. And if you saw me as Miss Hannigan, you know I can scream, so I was pretty loud. And anyway, we did this, and poor little girl in like the back of the theater started crying. She like 3 or 4, they had to take her out. I was pretty scary, but it was a real fun memory for me because I was on stage a total of 5 minutes and totally had a blast. And I just always have loved the musicals. My favorite was when I got to be Adelaide and Guys and Dolls. And my husband directed that one, and I had my own team of hot box girls and got to make up all those nightclub acts, and it was just super, super fun. So those were all great memories. I also wanted to just tell you that the best thing about OLT is trying something new and meeting new people. I have made so many good friends at Washita Little Theater, people that I just cherish. I never would have known otherwise. And so I just want to encourage you, if you've never tried out for anything before, come and audition for something and just meet new people and make friendships. And as we say at OLT, come play with us because we have a really, really good time. Thanks for listening and enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
Washita Little Theater has been a community asset for over 36 years. During its existence, it has provided opportunities for young and old to experience theater.
I first participated in the Washita Little Theater when I was in 5th grade, and after that, I was hooked.
Jessica Kropp, now the drama teacher at Mena High School, added that OLT
really influenced me to become a theater educator, and it's one of the greatest privileges I have in this life.
Musicals like Sound of Music and Oliver have given some audience members their first opportunity to experience live theater.
Well, that was great. I've never seen anything like it.
Washita Little Theater is a completely volunteer organization.
Jess Kropp. I started at the OLT when I was in 5th grade. We moved to Arkansas in that time period. And my first show was called The Best Christmas Pageant Ever, which we've done 10, 12 times. I don't know, multiples. Anyway, I had a small part. His name was David. I had 4 lines. I got to wear a Christmas sweater. It was pretty cool. But the memory that I want to share, as I went along, one of my first big roles was when I was in middle school. I tried out for The King and I. And in The King and I, there's a British boy who's the son of Anna. And I got that part. It was very exciting. I had to learn a British accent and how to whistle. And I was excited about all of that. But what I remember the most, my memory from that show, was Travis Ulmer and I. He was the king's son. He played the king's son. And I had this little tiff and song. And when we were doing the actual performances, I think his adrenaline was running a little bit higher. And I thought when we were doing this shoving bit that I was going to end up in Brandy Clark Benner's French horn. But thankfully I kept myself upright and we went on with the show. Another memory I thought I'd share is when I was in high school, we were doing Oliver the first time. Rudy was directing, my mom was musical directing, and I got a small part in it. I was a maid, but I had this really big fluffy dress, and so my mom put me in the orchestra as well as percussion, so I would wear the costume the whole time, and then go in the show, come back out, play the xylophone, play the drums. Anyway, at the end of the night, one night, after I had gone up to change out of my costume, I was coming down the spiral staircase. It's very steep, and I thought, oh, I could slide down this. That's a great idea. So I remember about halfway down thinking, I'll just slide all the way down on the railing. And of course, about halfway point from there, from the midpoint, one of my feet got stuck in between the stairs and just fell completely down. And I thought, oh no, I've broken something. But thankfully, Miss Scherer was in the play, Paulette. She called Cliff to come over and check out my ankle, and it was just a very bad sprain. But I learned that I should not try to slide down the steep railing in the back of the theater. I don't recommend it. Those are some of my memories. Of course, theater plays a big role in my life because now I teach theater at the high school. So I'm very grateful for the beginnings of theater here with the OLT plays and also with Jolt. At the time, we had our own president, vice president. We did a lot of writing our own shows and directing our own shows, and that was really instrumental in developing the love for theater that I have today. And I still love directing, hoping to direct the spring musical this year.
Martin and I moved to Mena in 2009. In the ensuing years, I've taken part in over a dozen plays on the OLT stage. The most fun I've had was playing General Geneva in the comedy Southern Hospitality. The little town of Fayro, Texas was dying as folks moved away. The good folks of the town decided to hold a Fayro Days festival to persuade the CEO of the Senorita Caliente Salsa Factory to relocate in Fayro, bringing the jobs the town needed so badly. The plans included a reenactment of a Civil War battle, which never actually happened. General Geneva has exactly 2 men to make up her troops. They decide to use balloons with faces drawn on them to simulate the rest of the hundreds of soldiers on both sides. She drills her 2 men to the point of exhaustion and then exhorts them, okay, soldiers, listen up. Future generations will judge the actions we take today on this glorious field of conflict. We will right the wrongs of history and finally win the Battle of Vicksburg. Now, draw your weapons and charge! Dub answers her, you are aware that we're fighting helium balloon soldiers with BB guns on a cow pasture in the middle of Texas, right? I am aware that we are fighting to save our town as well as our place in history. As soldiers, we think as one. We act as one. You are the hope of the South, and I am your leader. The battle will commence at exactly 1200 hours, which gives us a gift neither side had at the original conflict, rehearsal time. So we will work our maneuvers until we get them right. Now, draw your weapons and charge. One of my all-time favorite plays. I waited a long time to get to play Martha Brewster, one of the batty old dears, whose mission in life was to help lonely old men out of this life. In a more serious vein, by far the most challenging role I played was Rebecca Boone in the play Love Makes a Home. It was written by Kaisa Kay, who lived here in Mena briefly. Scotty Jenkins was director, and he built the wonderful log cabin set. I was joined by Mercy and Josiah Shapiro, two classical musicians whose violins provided beautiful segues between the scenes as Rebecca remembers her life with Daniel.
He was such a young buck in buckskin. When we met, I wasn't just 14, and all the boys wanted to dance with me. Well, Daniel pulled out his knife and was flashing it around, bragging about how he'd fought in the French and Indian Wars. And then, with a swipe, he sliced the lace off my apron, and then he tore it twice more trying to get that knife free. I got away from him and kept dancing with the other boys.
My Daniel, he knows how to set himself apart from the pack. He knocked on my door the next evening with a deer over his shoulder, said he'd shot it on his way to our house. He set to carving it up out back for my family's dinner. He came to the supper table in that bloody shirt. My father started to chide him, but Daniel just smiled his sweet smile. Not long after, Daniel took me maple sugaring with him. One kiss among the maple trees sealed my fate. We've been married for more than 50 years now, and when he brushes his hand along my arm or lifts my hair off my neck, goosebumps go all over me, even to the backs of my knees. Tonight, he's gone again. He goes away, he comes back, and then he goes away again. I've had a lot more freedom than a lot of women. And he says to me, Rebecca, wherever we roam, whenever I'm with you, I'm home. You are always and forever my beloved wife.
My name is April Burt. I've been involved with the theater for about 15 years now. I've directed 2 shows. And I think my favorite memory was the closing night of The Fantastics. The mood was very stoic, but also very exciting, and I think that performance was just so magical because we had all been so proud of what we had accomplished, and it will live in my memories forever.
Hi, my name is Linda Johnson, known around the Ouachita Little Theater mostly as Grandma Linda. I am sitting in the green room of the OLT at present, as I spend a lot of time here. When we moved here in 2007 from California, it was the furthest thing from my mind that I would ever be involved in the theater. And it's been one of the most amazing parts of my life. About 7 years ago, I believe, a friend persuaded me to try out for a play, and I said to the director, will you please give me no lines and put me in the back where nobody will really see me? And I believe that was pretty much what happened, except I may have had one line, and if I did that line, I was shaking, knees knocking. I was really terrified. Period. And knowing that now seems so strange to me. And when I say that it has changed my life, literally, I mean it. Because I am not that scared person that I was 7 years ago when I first tried out for a play. I ended up being the properties manager, and I can't really even tell you how that happened other than they had the need for a properties manager, and I asked, what is that? I really did not even know what that meant. And I was told that it's the person who finds all the things that they need for props for the plays, anything from a coffee cup to a rope to, it could be literally anything. It's been quite challenging and so much fun to look for all of the things that I am asked to look for all of the plays. I have enjoyed that part of the theater so much, but what I've enjoyed more than anything is the fantastic people that I have met and the friends that I have made. A lot of people say that theater is like family, and it truly can be that. At the end of every play, it's hard for the cast to see it end. We're tired. We're ready for it to end, but at the same time, we want to stay together. We want to be able to keep being together as a group, almost always.